hurt. He's just not playing good. And this is more of an indictment or the analysts out there that were saying he is the next great one. How can you make that assessment when he hasn't been playing like that? He's not that good. Not saying he won't be good, not saying he won't be great, but right now, he's not that good. He's not even the best quarterback in the state of Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may be watching Arch Manning's football career end before it even begins. Arch Manning had sky-high expectations entering his sophomore year at Texas, but over the first 3 weeks of the college football season, he's done nothing but tank his own stock, and that is not an exaggeration. For a 5-star prospect who has the last name of some football legends, Manning has not lived up to the hype at all whatsoever, and this very well could be the beginning of the end of his NFL hopes and dreams. Now, of course, it's just 3 games into his career, but if you compare him to his uncles, he's definitely off to a rockier start. Real quick before we get to the content, this video is sponsored. We made over $500 on Thursday Night Football and Prize Picks, and if you tailed my picks, then you probably made some good money too. So far, we're 3 for 3 on all Prize Pick promos for this new NFL season. They're hooking us up with another promo for this Sunday. All Taylor Swift's fiance needs is 1 receiving yard for his square to cash, and now Prize Picks allows you to stack the same player for multiple categories, and they're the only gaming app that lets you do this. So let's take advantage of this. This is what I'm running with. First, make sure you sign up with my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 in lineups when you make a play of $5 or more. So for those of you guys that use your free square the way I suggested you to, you may have noticed that Brock Purdy is out for week 2. So thankfully his square isn't going to count, and all we need is Tua to bounce back versus the Patriots for our $25 to turn into $75. Now, if you've already signed up, I have you covered as well. My Discord community has already been profiting like crazy as a result of this new season, and if you want to join, just click on the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for today's sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We witnessed some unbelievably ugly football in Austin, Texas on Saturday, and the worst of it came from a guy who was supposed to be the best player on the field. Texas came into week 3 of the college football season ranked number 7 in the entire country after losing to the reigning champion Ohio State Buckeyes in a Cotton Bowl rematch in week 1, followed by a slaughtering of the San Jose State Spartans in their week 2 home opener. The Longhorns would match up against the unbelievably inferior University of Texas El Paso Miners in week 3. And with an underwhelming first 2 games for Arch Manning, the star quarterback looked to bounce back with a dominating performance. Well, that's exactly the opposite of what happened. While Texas did win this game, improving their record to 2-1, it certainly wasn't because of Arch Manning in the slightest. At the half, Arch had one of the worst stat lines I've ever seen for a matchup this lopsided. He finished the half only completing 5 of his 16 pass attempts, including 10 straight incompletions for only 69 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Still, Texas was up 14-3 due to a couple of rushing touchdowns from Arch. He finished the game, however, completing 11 of his 25 pass attempts for 114 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. It's safe to say that Texas's 27-10 victory was not due to an Arch Manning masterclass. I'm not here to just poop on Arch Manning because that's low-hanging fruit, and any person on ESPN could easily sit here and tell you
Arch has been bad according to the stat sheet.
I personally prefer a different approach. I like explaining to you guys why Arch Manning has been so terrible, why it's so shocking, and backing up my facts with film analysis. And if you take a look at some of the film from this game, which I'm about to show you, you'll completely understand why Arch Manning has been so terrible. The first play I want to show you is his interception in the first quarter, because man, was this bad. Texas lines up here on the UTEP 12-yard line in a 4th and 3 situation. First of all, the decision to even go for this by Steve Sarkeesian was horrible, and they should have just taken the 3. But that's besides the point. They're on the right hash mark on this play, giving them the entire left side of the field to work with, which is what they do. They line 2 receivers and a running back up to Arch's left, creating proper space before the ball is even snapped. However, that space all goes away once the ball is snapped. Once Arch gets the ball, he and every single one of his offensive linemen start running to the left in a designed rollout, which rarely works. But This one was set up beautifully. The tight end lined up on the right side of the line pre-snap wasn't just a blocker, he actually went out for a route of his own. This route, a crosser route, was beautifully schemed because every single UTEP defender started to cover the wide side of the field once they noticed the design rollout, leaving the tight end wide open behind everybody on the weak side of the field. If Arch had just pivoted his hips and lofted one over the defense, this would have been a successful conversion and the easiest touchdown of his life. Instead, Arch stares down one read on the rollout that was never open before running out of room and finding himself in a position where he needs to improvise. In all fairness, he does find his way around 3 UTEP defenders in an attempt to find something the other way, and there does end up being an open man in the end zone, but he's behind a defender and completely out of Arch's range, considering he had already rolled past him on the rebound. Still, Arch tries to play Superman, throwing fully across his body, but that decision resulted in an unbelievably weak throw, and a ball that landed in a UTEP defender's hands. Arch made 2 crucial mistakes on this play. One, he didn't make the initial read at the beginning of the play, even though he knew that route was going to open up, and he gave UTEP some crucial momentum by forcing a turnover that could have easily been avoided. The next play I'm going to show you is simply inexcusable from Arch Manning, and maybe the best possible example of his poor play thus far. Texas had the ball here at their own 22-yard line, looking to start a successful 2-minute drill to put up some points on the board before the half. Texas lined up in empty, but that makes complete sense given the situation. Ball gets snapped, and we see a few things. First of all, we see that UTEP is simply rushing the 4-down linemen that they had pre-snap, not complicating anything for Arch or the talented Longhorn offensive line. The next thing I want you to notice is the defense. UTEP's defensive backs are playing way off the line of scrimmage, looking to prevent a game-changing deep ball while simultaneously giving up the short stuff on the sideline. You have to pick your poison sometimes. Luckily for UTEP, however, they didn't get any poison. This play ended up being a smash concept on the right side of the field with the slot receiver running a deeper route, usually a corner, but in this case a streak variant, and the outside receiver, running back Christian Clark in this case, running a curl, forcing the outside defensive back to make a decision on where he wants to go. Because of this, the corner slows up, leaving room for Clark on the sideline. All Arch has to do is make the pass. Arch does indeed see this, and he does make the right decision, but he completely misses a wide open Clark, sailing the ball out of bounds and wasting an opportunity to get some easy yards in the 2-minute drill. Throws like these are ones that high-level quarterbacks make every single time. He can't be missing these types of throws. It will come back to bite him in the long run. The last play was quite literally 2 plays after the one I just showed you, and it was so horrible that Arch Manning got booed off the field by his home fans. 2 plays later, on 3rd and 5, Texas needs to convert this down if they want to continue their drive and put up points before the half. This is a situation where a short pass is exactly what Texas needs, and both Arch Manning and Steve Sarkeesian both know that. This play ends up being a basic slant concept, with 2 receivers on the right side of the field, both running slants to create some dilemma between the linebackers, and on the other side of the field, the outside receiver running a slant and the slot receiver running a flat, in case there's a need for a check down. Arch's job here is to make a quick decision and get the ball out before the routes end up getting in each other's way. Unfortunately for Texas, Arch waits just half a second too long, but this play doesn't end how you think it would. The ball doesn't even get to the wide receiver because Arch made one crucial mistake that I haven't even mentioned yet. The guy literally caught the ball and just stood there instead of catching the ball and dropping back like any other normal quarterback would. He just sits there because he knows that it's a quick play. But the one thing that he didn't account for was when you just sit there as a quarterback, there's a pass rush. The reason quarterbacks even drop back in the first place is so that 1, they can see over the line of scrimmage and their offensive linemen, and 2, so that the ball makes it past the line of scrimmage. Standing in the pocket that close to the line of scrimmage gives you a launch angle that is much lower to the ground than you'd like once the ball crosses the line, making it significantly easier for defensive linemen to just reach up and bat it down, especially if you happen to be throwing a short bullet pass over the middle of the field. And that's exactly what happened. Arch threw the ball to his middle slant. The ball got tipped by a defensive tackle, and instead of a completion and a first down, the ball almost got picked, which most likely would have resulted in points the other way before the half, which is genuinely the worst case scenario. Rightfully so, Arch walked off the field with his fans booing him.
Texas will have to punt it away.
This is simply inexcusable football, and the fact that Texas's defense was strong enough to only allow 10 points is really going to take some slack off of Arch for this game, but I don't think he deserves it at all. The last time I made a video on Arch Manning was after week 1, when he played horribly against Ohio State, and I gave him the excuse that he was facing the best team in the country and one of the best defenses in the country, but you can't use that excuse anymore. Arch Manning just played a game that a 5-star projected #1 NFL draft pick at an SEC school should not have against a 1-2 Conference USA team. Now again, his uncles most certainly had some bad games in college, but neither of them ever looked this bad against a school this inferior. Arch has all season to make up for these first 3 weeks, but if I'm being honest, there's a chance that Arch Manning might just be a bad quarterback. Guys, I'm not trying to ruthlessly destroy Arch Manning, but I have to admit there's something really strange about this situation. I mean, following Arch Manning's game against San Jose State last week, a reporter asked Steve Sarkeesian if something was wrong with Arch Manning's throwing motion, and his reaction was wild.
Arch Manning seemed to be having some throwing pains by the
According to
fourth
who? Arch said that to you?
No, it just looked like he was.
He doesn't have any. I've never filmed any of you guys when you're using the bathroom, so I don't know what faces you make when you're doing that.
With that aside, I wanted to mention that we have seen cases like this before in college football history. I mean, it's nothing new. A #1 recruit underperformed significantly. The last time I could think of such a scenario was 5 years ago when DJ Uiagalelei was supposed to take over Clemson's offense for Trevor Lawrence. If you guys remember, DJ was the #1 quarterback in his class in 2020, just like Arch was #1 in his. DJ had all of the physical tools. He could throw the ball 80 yards, had the perfect quarterback frame at 6'4", 250 pounds. He even had star power. Sure, he didn't come from a quarterback dynasty, but he did appear in Netflix's QB1 documentary series. Does that sound familiar? When DJ first got his chance at Clemson, filling in for Trevor Lawrence against Notre Dame in 2020, he originally lived up to the hype. He threw for 439 yards. Everyone thought he was the real deal, but then 2021 happened. He completed just 55% of his passes. The Tigers went from #3 in the preseason to unranked, and by the middle of the season, people were calling for him to be benched. He would transfer to Oregon State, then Florida State, and do you know where he ended up? Undrafted. He signed with the Chargers as a free agent. But DJ's not even the best comparison here. No, the perfect comparison is Spencer Rattler. Rattler was the consensus #1 QB in 2019. Rattler also had fame through a Netflix documentary and entered the 2021 season as the Heisman Trophy favorite. He was at Oklahoma playing for Lincoln Riley, surrounded by NFL talent. Everything was set up for him to succeed. Lincoln Riley made Baker Mayfield a Heisman Trophy winner, Kyler Murray a Heisman Trophy winner, and he almost did the same thing with Jalen Hurts, and he probably would have too if Joe Burrow didn't happen to have the greatest single season we've ever seen in college football history. So Jalen Hurts finished second. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be next up. Then the Red River rivalry happened on October 9th, 2021. Rattler got benched at halftime against Texas for a true freshman named Caleb Williams. He would never get his starting job back. The guy went from a potential #1 overall pick to transferring to South Carolina, and despite some decent games there, he fell all the way to the 5th round, pick 150 in the 2024 draft. There were 137 picks between him and the quarterback taken before him. That's the biggest gap in the common draft era. And here's the kicker, both DJ and Rattler had something that Arch doesn't. They had shown that they could play at an elite level at some point. DJ had those early games filling in for Trevor Lawrence. Rattler threw 28 touchdowns to 7 interceptions as a freshman. Arch, through 3 games, he's shown us what exactly? And you know what the crazy part is? Arch actually has every advantage that DJ and Rattler didn't have. Quinn Ewers, the previous starter, went very late in the NFL draft to the Miami Dolphins. To be honest, that might be a good spot for him given their starting quarterback's injury history, but he led Texas to back-to-back playoff appearances. Ewers threw for over 9,000 passing yards at Texas, 68 touchdowns, and led them to a Big 12 title. The program was in great shape. The offensive line was experienced, and the receiving core was talented, and the entire time he had to deal with Arch Manning's shadow when he was in Texas. Imagine every bad game, every interception, fans were calling for Arch. Sarkeesian said Ewers handled it well, but admitted the pressures of having a famous backup QB clearly impacted him. Ewers got drafted in the 7th round, picked 231 to the Miami Dolphins. The #1 recruit in his class became the 14th quarterback taken. So what's coming up? Well, Arch has Sam Houston State this Saturday, a team that's playing their home games at Shell Energy Stadium in Houston because their actual stadium is under renovation. They're currently winless. This should be a glorified scrimmage, just like University of Texas El Paso was supposed to be a glorified scrimmage. But after that, in week 6, they go to the Swamp to face off against the Florida Gators. Then they face off against Oklahoma, and then SEC play really begins. And if Arch Manning can't move the ball well against teams like UTEP, what makes you think that he has a chance at getting it done against teams like Florida or Oklahoma or Georgia or Texas A&M? And here's something that should terrify Texas fans. Arch has never attempted a pass in a true road environment. Not one. He had 3 rushes at Texas A&M last year, but didn't throw the ball. His first true road start was Ohio State, and we saw how that went. Now he has to go to the Swamp and then to the Red River rivalry and then Georgia later in the season. Look, guys, as a person that analyzes football, there's nothing more than I want for the next great Manning to actually live up to the hype. I want Arch Manning to be successful in his college career and then get selected #1 overall by my Dallas Cowboys in the 2027 NFL draft so they could rationalize the Micah Parsons trade as a good trade. Yeah, good luck doing that. And I'm not saying that Arch Manning can't turn it around. Maybe he figures it out against Sam Houston. Maybe the game slows down for him. Maybe those Manning genes finally kick in. But right now we're watching a quarterback who looks completely overwhelmed, who has mechanical issues his coach compares to bathroom activities, and is getting booed by his own fans just 3 games into his starting career. I think this is a bit of a stretch, but some fans are comparing him to Ryan Leaf, which is another can't-miss quarterback prospect who crumbled under pressure, ironically who was picked right after his uncle Peyton. And I think that might sound harsh, but when you're completing 44% of your passes against UTEP, and your coach is making poop jokes to defend you, maybe it's not that far off. The next few weeks will tell us everything. If he struggles against Sam Houston, a team that's literally homeless right now, then we're not talking about growing pains anymore. We're talking about a fundamental inability to play the quarterback position at this level. And I genuinely hope that isn't the case. So let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think this is Arch Manning just getting acclimated to college football, or do you think this is the quarterback he truly is? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.